All right, thanks for coming in. What Philadelphia played midweek or early week? What were some of your impressions of that game and the form they're in?
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand that the results, the last two matches haven't been what Philly usually experiences, particularly at home. But when you watch the match in detail, it's a little bit like I talked about with Seattle the previous week, which is to say that it's an opponent that's very clear in their way. A lot of talented players when they get going, as they did in the second half of that match. They're one of the best teams in the league. And it's going to be a really hard challenge for us, but it's one that I think the club's excited about. Our team's really been focused on since coming off of Seattle, and we want to try to put back-to-back wins at home together.
You're new here, and some of the players are new here. DC hasn't had a lot of success against Philly recently. Does that come up at all, especially with some of the guys that have been around in terms of mentally?
No, I haven't heard that as any part of the narrative this week. I have to say, I think everyone feels like we want to try to build on the positive result that we were able to achieve against a really good Sounders team last week. And now we come up against another opponent that's always at the top of the standings. And that's a great opportunity.
Jacob Merle goes first start on Saturday, and whether he starts again or not, just as we watched it, he not only was creating chance for himself, but it seems like freeing up Kentucky. Were any lessons learned from that watching Saturday?
Yeah, we've seen so much from Jacob Merle in an early part of the season. He had a little bit of an injury that kept him out and pushed him back a little bit in terms of his development. But we knew from the very beginning of preseason that he had a ton of potential. And, he had a big choice to make. Coming out of Georgetown's not easy. They have such a great program, and he was building his reputation there and his profile there. But and it's also not easy to come out of a program like that produces so many players and develops players in the right way. And you come into a team that has Christian Benteke as their starting number 9. That's not easy to feel like that's the position that you can go to and have a lot of success. But Jacob believes in himself, and Jacob has a lot of quality. And now he's proven, particularly in this last match, that he can be a good pairing with Christian. And so that's something that we're going to absolutely look at, not only this coming weekend, but I think throughout the rest of the season. These two can work well together. He's smart. He knows that a lot of focus is going to be around Christian. And he's quite dangerous in the box too. So although he's young, he's only 19. He's someone that I think can continue to make an impact in our team.
Maybe continue, or whoever can continue to draw defenders away from Christian. That has to be a big plus.
That's right. We have a number of players that flood the box for us. It's not just Christian, and they do that because there is so much attention around him. And Christian will be the first to tell you it doesn't have to be him that scores the goal, but he's also going to put himself in position to do that.
When the ball goes in the air, it seems like he can score the goal. Can you just comment on his aerial prowess? I guess was there Bruce said on the broadcast he's the best on the planet, and maybe there's some stats to back that up or something.
Yeah, that's
the best. It does seem like that. It's like, wait a minute, how did he get up 10 feet in the air?
We found that out last week. Lucas Bartlett wanted to really put himself out there and say, hey, look, I think my aerial duel percentage is quite high, and his is quite high, Lucas Bartlett. But when we looked it up, the number 1 in the world is Christian Benteke. And that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone of how dominant he's been in the MLS. But maybe it is a bit surprising that across all leagues that he's up there in that way. So we need to highlight that.
Yeah, the world is a big place. That's a world again, right?
That's right.
No, but seriously, I mean, you watch it as a coach. Is it part of his timing or what?
Yeah, look, he's obviously a big profile in terms of being 6'4", 6'5", and he's very athletic, but you can be those things and not have the timing that he has. He has exceptional timing. And I think it's also important about the delivery that he gets as well. And there's a really good connection from the group about understanding where he's going to be. It's not just as simple as we kick it up and good luck to Christian. Christian has a great skill set, and it's up to us to make sure to find him in the right areas.
Yeah, hey Troy, how's it going?
Hey, Ben.
Talk a little bit about Peltola and Click and the relationship and what they do for each other and the players around them. It's pretty evident the last game that it's a good play.
Yeah, I think Matty Click is someone that we like to get on the ball facing forward and then let him be creative. And so in order to do that, you also have to have a lot of stability, and a player like Matty Peltola and Jackson Hopkins, these two guys are very stable in terms of their positioning and how they play. Simple. They try to keep the game as simple as possible. And it gives that freedom that Clicky likes to have to be able to float in different areas and find the right time and space. And I think you're seeing him again find good connections all over the field, but particularly down the right side with Aaron Herrera and Jared Stroud.
Yeah, Coach, Steve Birnbaum is back at practice this week, on the bench for the last game. Just morale wise, how great is it to have kind of a guy like him, obviously, longest tenured captain coming into the season, just have him back kind of in the swing of things, maybe
Sure.
not performance wise, but at least back in practice. And everything.
It's hard to put it into words, honestly. It's incredible in so many different ways. I talked to Steve individually even last week because he was in modified training last week in order to be on the bench this past weekend versus Seattle. And this week, as you said, he's been into full team training. So I think that's another really positive step forward for him. But his presence, his voice, the information that he gives, and we talk about accountability a lot. I think the ultimate accountability is when you have player to player communication of saying, hey, that was excellent, or that, that wasn't good enough. And Steve's the first one to look at himself and say when things are right or when things need to improve. And because he acts that way, he also can act in a fashion of holding others to that standard as well. And so that's something that we are going to need this year. And that's something that Steve fulfills every single week whenever he's on the field.
Did it feel like maybe even just for him, like the morale of him being back at practice, just had to be tough, obviously getting injured in preseason and having to sit out as long as he did. Did it feel like him being back this week, just like maybe a sigh of relief for him and just kind of get back in the swing?
Yeah. I mean, look, Steve's, he's a veteran that's been doing this for a while. I think he's 32, 33, I want to say. And, but he's still a kid at heart. I mean, he loves the game. He loves to play. He loves to compete. And that's what he is exceptional at. And so you can see in his demeanor, and that's infectious to our group. It's gonna give our group a big lift. It's like a new signing, a few months into the season. So I'm really happy to have him back, and now it's our job to keep him in the team.
How are Ted and Connor doing?
Yeah, making good progress. Ted's been a little bit more modified, to use that word again, similar to where Steve was last week. So he's been able to get into training. Hopefully he has another good day tomorrow and can be available for the weekend. And then Connor is probably still another week away.
Wanted to ask you about Aaron Herrera and the impact he's had. He was already acquired on the team when you came on. What were your impressions of him over the last couple of years, and then having him on your team, and how you could utilize him?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron's a player that's from New Mexico. So he played at University of New Mexico. He's from Las Cruces. So I knew of him during his time there. And he's someone that, I followed at Real Salt Lake because, again, just by proximity, they were really close to us. And at one point in time, Aaron and I've talked about this. I thought the way he was trending, he was moving towards being one of the best right backs in the league. And I think the last few years, it hasn't been at that same level that it was previously. But now this year we're seeing, and his goal coming in was to hit those levels again. And we've seen that every single match and really every single day in training. I mean, he is extremely impactful for our team. A lot of the way our team goes has to do with Aaron's influence on the game. And you don't always say that about a right back, but that's the type of impact that he's had. And I'm happy to see him get back to that level that he's capable of. He can be the best right back in the league. And yeah, he's a lot of fun to work with.
I saw Luciano Emilio wandering around. I mean, as I always say, he has the best smile in sports. So probably just good to have him back around. Or could he play 15 minutes if you?
Yeah, I talked to him about seeing if he could make a run for a few minutes. I think he could probably still score a goal or create a goal. But Luciano being here is really important towards, again, our club's identity and really celebrating the history of our club. And we want to have more former DC United players that had the type of success that he had. That again is something that our young players need to know and understand. And yeah, I mean, it really is. It's always fun to have that type of person come back that and how much the club meant to them and how much time they put into the club, and we want to celebrate that.
And you probably shows that this is a place of opportunity. Here's a guy we didn't know who he was when he got here, and He's a leading scorer MVP.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that can be that can be the case for some of these players that are in this room right now and in this team right now.
Yeah, Troy, a question for you. I mean, we were kind of blown away at the ball by McVay to stop and the way he took it down and how one ball gets a player pitched off the field that creates a goal. I mean, you usually don't talk about center backs on a ball like that. The balls that these guys are playing out of the back is pretty impressive the way they're finding the targets and not getting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they spend a lot of time on that, Bruce. You know, it's something that, again, it's just not by chance. That it's very deliberate in terms of what we ask our center backs to do. It's also very deliberate what we ask our tens to do. You know, Jared's supposed to make that run over and over again, and he was rewarded in a big way by a quality ball by Chris. And we need to look for that always as a dangerous way to get in.
Along those lines, the league this week overturned the Fry red card. Wow, I was shocked by that. Did you have any reaction to that?
No.
Good answer.
Yeah.
We'll take some from Zoom, Matt.
We'll go to Charlie Bone.
Hey Troy, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for your time. I have two completely distinct questions, so I'll let you answer the first one first, if that's okay. So with today, MLS released the new roster profiles with new levels of detail about contract status and things like that, which kind of seems to follow on from the changes to roster regulations that the Board of Governors voted on last month, which leads up to you guys having more spending flexibility and roster options when the summer window opens. So I wanted to see if I could get your reaction to that. Do you think that, with what you've built so far, you could make some moves and maybe try to take a leap forward when the window opens?
Yeah, I don't think that I'm necessarily well versed in all the new rules and regulations, Charlie. I know probably like the general idea behind it, which is to increase every club's ability to go after higher profile players and move away from some of the restrictions. And what I would say to that is I know Ali Mackay has been in very, very good connection with Steve Kaplan and Jason Levian, and as have I. And moving forward, as these new rules are in place, I think you're going to see us continue to try to push for high profile signings like Christian Benteke and Matty Quick. And we're going to try to do our best to add that as soon as we can. As it relates to 2024 and the summer window, I don't know if that's a possibility. And again, that's just because I don't know the details of how that affects us in the immediate term.
And then also, I haven't heard or read anything about Jatsa in a while, so I wanted to ask you about him and his status.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I hadn't heard anything about Mohamed Jatsa in a while, so I wanted to ask about his status.
Yeah, it's still in a similar situation. I think I've communicated this before. He's someone that right now it's hard for him to get into the team just based on how I evaluate him and our style of play and how we go and do things from a fullback standpoint. I've also communicated, though, every single day he trains as a professional, and every single day he has some different qualities that I do respect. But that's where it is still currently.